Do you identify as a people pleaser, a perfectionist, maybe both? Well, today we're getting into where those patterns come from, why they're so hard to break, and how to stop shrinking yourself to manage other people's comfort and start showing up as who you really are.
It is a really disorienting moment to wake up and be like, I am a grown-ass woman and I don't know who I am. And so people-pleasing is a way to avoid being in conflict. But conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict is just a difference and a question of whether we want to live in a world or in our relationship. Do we value difference, or are we just looking to all be the same? Don't let not being perfect or having all the answers keep you from offering what you do have.
Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. Today's episode is all about solving a very specific problem. And the problem we're solving today is people-pleasing and perfectionism. In fact, those were two of the most requested topics when we did our survey on LinkedIn. And I think I understand why, because I am actually a recovering people pleaser and a recovering perfectionist. I actually don't have this one completely figured out, which is why I invited my guest today, Elaine Lin Hering, to help me solve this problem. But I just want to tell you why this topic resonates so deeply for me. I wrote an entire book about self-worth, and I find myself still falling into both traps, perfectionism and people-pleasing, all the time. And so before we talk to our guest, I wanted to share with you some of my own reflections on both of these topics, and maybe that'll give you comfort around why we're all struggling with these two areas. The first thing I want to share is the root cause of people-pleasing and perfectionism. They come from a very similar place, which is fear. When it comes to people-pleasing, it's fear about how other people see us or how we feel valued or if we're to be liked. Perfectionism is also a fear. It's a fear of not living up to an external standard or an external source of validation. Both come from a place where we're trying to protect a specific version of ourselves. It could be a version that is curated, agreeable, perfect from the outside, and one that prevents us from being hurt or disappointed or rejected. Specifically, when you think about perfectionism, it's a fear of judgment or criticism, being seen as not enough. So you never let people in and you never show the cracks. There's an armor, an invulnerability to it. By the way, it means that no one is allowed to join you on the journey or have fingerprints on your success because you're trying and you're beating yourself up all the time to fall short of a standard. People-pleasing is a fear of disappointing others, being rejected, only feeling valued if everyone around you is comfortable or if you're giving to them. And I want to share this idea because I think when we double click on why we're susceptible to perfectionism and people-pleasing, we have to face our own insecurities in the process because all of us want to be liked and valued and seen. And oftentimes we will beat ourselves up or overdo things in order to achieve that. And I want to just say this to you now, that curated, agreeable, perfect version of yourself, that's the version that might be holding you back from the things you really want in life. Let's double click on people-pleasing. I think of people-pleasing as falling into two buckets. Bucket one, which I think as the daughter of a tiger mom who only felt loved if I accomplished things, that first bucket is what drains us. It's doing nice things because we think that doing them leads to approval. We're scared about what people will think of us, or maybe they won't like us if we do that, if we don't do this thing for them. And there's always a power dynamic that's a little off. And so people-pleasing becomes something that drains you because you're only doing it to be liked or to be approved. That second bucket, though, isn't bad. It's generosity. It's where you want to do something because the world is better when you do it. It's something you want to do. And that's not people-pleasing. That's just being a good human. The problem is when we go from that second bucket and tip over to that first one, it's when you start prioritizing someone else's approval over your own needs and values. And that's really where you get into being scared to disappoint someone. You're scared of rejection. You're scared of being seen a certain way. That's when that dynamic becomes really corrosive. I'm going to say this to you very directly. Your worth is not conditional on someone else's comfort. And that's something that's been really hard for me to learn because people pleasers think they're being selfless, but a lot of times we're being self-protective. Because when we show this curated version of ourselves, Lisa's so nice, she's so kind, she's so warm, she's so helpful, where you're agreeable, you're helpful, you have no friction, it feels safer, but you actually don't connect with anyone fully. And you never get to that place of vulnerability. I actually think what I've learned is conflict with one of my best friends. I thought I was always trying to please her. The first time we had conflict, that's when we had the breakthrough. That's when we became truly good friends. When you do that, real vulnerability creates connection. And when you hold it back, you can't connect. It's invulnerable. It's an armor. And you can't have real relationships. So the difference between a people pleaser and a giver, givers know their limits. Givers know to have friction and conflict as a way to grow and heal and push things and get people involved in what they need. And you have to include yourself in the equation. So if we continue to people please, it just creates resentment and a whole cycle of never really getting what you want, never feeling really connected to anyone. Perfectionism is a similar dynamic. It's where we have high standards, but that's not the problem. I don't think high standards are the problem. I think the problem is when perfectionism, you become obsessed with high standards as the goal. And you feel like if you don't hit that goal, you're not good enough. In fact, the goalpost keeps moving. You're never good enough. You feel being judged. You feel like you're being criticized. You're not inviting people early enough to help you solve a problem. You're like, I have to get this perfect before I show it to anyone. Well, guess what happens? It's never going to be perfect. And it makes you really lonely. It kills creativity. It kills collaboration. It's a very lonely place to be if you're a perfectionist because you feel like you have to hold on to everything until it's ready. The best people I know are not striving for perfection. And I learned this really early on. The best people I know are striving for growth and help along the way. When I was an early business analyst in my 20s, I thought everything had to be perfect. And I had this boss say, you know what, just give me the crappy first draft. Whatever you're thinking, put it down on paper because we will make it better together. You don't have enough experience to get it perfect yet. And you will stay up till the middle of the night perfecting something that, by the way, may not even be the right thing. The earlier you bring me on to iterate, the faster we get to the end product that's going to work for the client. The moment that you switch from this has to be perfect to I want to grow, I want to put something good on the table, it becomes so much less exhausting. And I think what you realize is redemption and growth is more powerful than holding on to the answer until it's perfect. A crappy first draft is better than nothing. And I think that's where perfectionists beat themselves up. They procrastinate and hold on to things to the last minute. And we're striving for an ideal that at the same time, we're terrified to share anything we're working on or thinking about. And that's what keeps you stuck. So I want you to think about, you're never going to be perfect. We have to do the best we can in this moment, get it out there and iterate. It can always be better. And that reframe, I believe, is freeing. So both people pleasing and perfectionism, I think they present quite similarly. A polished front, a curated version of yourself designed not to be hurt, not to be judged, just to be liked and celebrated. And both of them mask real progress, real intimacy, real creativity. The moment you can genuinely say, I'm never going to make everyone happy, and this is never going to be perfect in its first iteration, that's the point where the good stuff lives. And I think about in our superpowers, we have these 8 superpowers that redefine confidence. And number 8 is called self-sustaining. I like myself. I don't need to impress you. External markers are nice, but they don't define me. I'm going to tell you that when I took our quiz for the first time, over now, 7 years ago, I scored 0 points on self-sustaining. I had none of this. Now I'm scoring at least 4 out of 6 points on that part of the quiz. Self-sustaining is a superpower that says, I'm valuable whether or not you like me back, whether or not I live up to a specific standard of perfection. I'm valuable no matter what comes, and I will continue to grow and push the envelope and make myself even better over time. I'm going to close this before we throw it to our guest. I got to see Jane Fonda speak on a stage a few years ago at the Mortgage Bankers Association event. And she was talking about her personal life and how every man that she had ever been with, she would leave herself at the door before she walked into the home. And she was a version of herself that she thought that man wanted her to be. And she realized much later in life that she could be herself, that she didn't have to leave who she was at the door to be perfect, to be liked by her partner. And that real version of herself was who she really wanted to be long-term. And so what I'm asking you to think about as we walk into this is maybe you're leaving who you really are at the door of your home, at the door to your office. And that version of you is beautiful. It is special. And you don't have to have it be perfect or likable for it to be successful in life. So everything I just shared with you, those are my own personal thoughts around fear, self-protection, the patterns we fall into, and that's my experience of it. But understanding something and actually knowing how to move through it are two very different things. So I called in someone who has so much experience on both topics. She spent her career helping people find their voice and use it. So today my guest is Elaine Lin Hering. She is a facilitator, a speaker, a national bestselling author of Unlearning Silence, How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash Talent, and Live More Fully. Couldn't think of a better person to invite to talk about unlearning silence, because silence is what happens when we are people pleasers and perfectionists. She's a former lecturer at Harvard Law School, a former managing partner at Triad Consulting Group, and her clients include Google, Pixar, Nike, and beyond. I'm so grateful that she joined us today because her whole life's work is about what happens when we shrink ourselves to keep the peace and how we can stop it. Elaine, welcome to the show. Elaine, welcome to In Confidence.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
And, you know, it's so funny. Part of the thing that I love about the snowball effect of having a podcast is people message you to say, oh, you know, so-and-so was just on. You need to meet so-and-so. And I have never seen so much passion from Melanie Scroggins about making sure I connected with you. It was sort of like imperative. So I'm glad we're doing it. Hello, Melanie. I'm glad we're doing it for you.
Listened to her.
Well, we're going to solve some problems today, but before we get into that, we're going to ask you our signature questions. The first one is, what are you proudest of from the last 12 months of your life?
I know how I'm supposed to answer this question, right? I just gave a TEDx talk. The 8th translation of my book is out, yada, yada, yada. But the thing I'm most proud of is that I went and visited my mom and we shared a cup of tea. So with my 2 hours of child-free time, I chose to go sit with my mother and have a conversation. And it was so good for my soul, and it was so good for her soul, and so healing for our generational relationship. But I can swear on the show, it's pretty damn proud that that's what I chose to do.
Okay, you just are making me miss my mom. My mom lives in Taiwan. So the fact that you have the privilege of just going over for 2 hours, I wish I could walk over to my parents' house and hang out with my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And to not take that for granted because, as we know, they're not around forever.
Okay, you're just putting on the guilt trip. I gotta visit my parents this year.
Lisa's like buying a plane ticket. I'm
gonna just get on and do it right now, Elaine. Okay, well that's beautiful. And for those of our audience who don't know who you are, how do you make a difference in the world? Tell us your life journey.
I help people reclaim their power by unlearning silence.
Ooh, say more about that.
So often women are told you need more confidence, you need more courage, you need to fix yourself. I think there's value to all of that work. But when it comes to speaking up and using your power, often it sounds like, well, you go fix yourself, you woman, and then maybe we'll respect you. Maybe we'll listen to you. Maybe we'll promote you. But the goalpost keeps changing. And my work was teaching skills out of the Harvard Negotiation Project around negotiating, having difficult conversations, giving and receiving feedback, and realized actually there's a big piece that's missing. And that's this factor of silence, the ways that we withhold of ourselves for the comfort and convenience of others.
Ooh, okay.
So let's solve for that. rather than telling women to fix themselves. Because there's the silence I've learned, there's the ways you're silencing me, there's the ways it's baked into the systems we're all part of, but we cannot solve what we cannot see. So my work is, let's see it more clearly and then do something about it.
I love that because it's almost like, the analogy you could use is like omission is still lying, right? Like the act, not that you lied, but like just
the
omitting.
The lawyer is really happy that you went there. Lie by omission is a thing.
Right. And so it's similar to, I could teach you to speak up, which is good for you to learn, but I also need you to decondition things that you have been taught. Like this silence is kind of this role you play. I love that. That's a nice flip on that idea. Well, before we get into your solving our problems for our audience today, how did you get into that line of work?
By accident. Ooh. Isn't that true for most of us in what we're doing? I went to Harvard Law School intending to be a litigator, took a negotiation workshop, had a mind-blowing moment of, wait, we can talk about things? What a novel idea. That was not my family of origin. And fell into leadership development and then never intended to write a book. But as I saw what was missing in what was being taught in professional development, a book is a way of sharing a big idea. And so now I'm an author.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I love that because certainly same thing, Ivy League, sort of Asian girl goes to Ivy League school.
On perfectionism, Lisa.
Well, today we're going to break all those habits, but I could have like collected all of the fancy titles and academic accolades and then decided to like, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. Now, one question, if I were to pick up a copy of your book, Unlearning Silence, How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash Talent, and Live More Fully, and if I were to kind of walk away with like one major thing to do differently, what's like the one thing that you'd want everyone who read the book to do differently?
Remember that you have a choice.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Remember that you have a choice in how you live your life, in how you show up, in whether you say something or don't say something, in whether you want to climb that corporate ladder, in whether you want to collect accolades like you were just talking about, because so many of us live on autopilot. And so many other people rely on us living on autopilot for their lives and businesses to run. And we forget we have a choice because, I can't. Golden handcuffs, or my family relies on me, or I could never leave my team, or like I built it from, I love these people. Well, are you living life the way you want to live? Because you matter too. But we need to remember we have a choice, because the lie that I have no choices is that it's a lie.
Okay, well, that's the perfect segue to today's problem solution session. So as we have shared with everyone, this season, we are solving people's problems. We surveyed our audience and they gave us 16 problems to solve. I think of this as phone a friend. I can't solve them all. So I called in you, Elaine, to solve today's. We actually have two problems we're going to work through with you today. The first is I'm a chronic people pleaser and want to stop. And then the other one is I'm a perfectionist and can't enjoy the process. Whew, those are big ones, and they connect directly to the one big takeaway you just shared about your book.
Yes.
So many of us, including myself, identify as people pleasers. Where does this come from, and why is it hard to shake?
Yeah, I'd argue people pleasing comes from acculturation, from conditioning. Women especially are supposed to be kind and supportive and other-centered, and then we're penalized socially when we act out of norm. Right? She is too assertive. She's a witch, starting with a B, right? She is not someone I want to be friends with. This likability, competence, tension that we have to navigate that our male counterparts don't seem to, right? When they are assertive, it is demonstrating leadership. When we are assertive, we are not good team players. So that conditioning starts from when we are very young. And there's a relational aspect, which is very few of us like to be in conflict. And so people pleasing is a way to avoid being in conflict, right? If I'm doing what you want and fulfilling the role you want me to, never mind what I want or think, because that's irrelevant. hopefully we hear the sarcasm and nuance in that statement, right? Then there's no conflict. But conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict is just a difference and a question of whether we want to live in a world or in our relationship. Do we value difference, or are we just looking to all be the same?
So people are people pleasers because there's systemic issues around conditioning. There is this need to avoid conflict because it feels uncomfortable. I wonder if there's another piece of this of like people needing to seek external validation just because they haven't really seen it in themselves. So they're like, if I do this for this person, they'll like me more. And then I will therefore like me. Is there that component of it too?
I think that's absolutely there, although you see that shifting with age. One of the beautiful things I love about witnessing women going through menopause is this, like, I just don't give an F anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And it is liberating. It is beautiful. I saw it in my grandma. I saw it in my mother. I see it in women online. I hit 50. I'm done with pretending. And if you think about it, that external validation is built in from the time that we are young, from grades at school to trophies and extracurriculars. But also true resilience and grit comes with that self-identification and satisfaction, not seeking external validation. So the faster we can get there, the less we are prey to the people-pleasing tendencies, but also just don't have to carry the weight of solving for what everyone else wants from us.
Yeah. And, when we wrote our book, we did a quantitative study and we found that women over the age of 50 were more likely to have a quality that we called self-sustaining. I like myself. I don't need to prove anything to you. External markers are nice, but they don't define me anymore. And so we actually talked about there's a huge spike that happens post 50. So I love that you've seen that in your work too.
Yes. And my greatest aspiration in life has been to be an 80-year-old grandmother.
8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, they both have self-sustaining. Let's be clear. Like I tend towards more the 8-year-old side, but I get that. I understand that. What's the difference between being genuinely collaborative and accommodating and a good team player versus people pleasing in a way that's quietly costing you?
The difference between genuine collaboration and that costly collaboration, in quotes, is, are your own needs also met? Right? It's not a bad thing to be considerate of others. It's not a bad thing to be kind. And do we do that for ourselves as well? Because if you are accommodating to a fault, or I would say self-silencing to the point of deprioritizing your needs out of altruism for others, it's not sustainable. Over time, you get resentful, you get bitter, you burn out. So that true collaboration comes from, and this is classic negotiation theory, every party to the negotiation has a set of needs, goals, hopes, and concerns. Guess what? You also are a party to the negotiation. If you exist in the relationship, your needs, goals, hopes, and concerns also matter. And so often we're focused on everyone else. And since no one else is focused on us, then we get cut out of the equation. But for it to be sustainable, we have to be represented and solved for. Our needs, goals, hopes, and concerns need to be solved for as well.
What if I don't know those? Like, what is the process I go through to figure that out? Because maybe I've just been giving and people pleasing for so long. I really don't even know what I want.
Did you notice the deep breath I just took?
You're like, this is the work that I do, Lisa.
This is the work. This is the work I have done for myself. This is the work I help others do. And I'll say it is a really disorienting moment to wake up and be like, I am a grown-ass woman and I don't know who I am. Right? Or I don't know what I need or what I think because I've been solving for what does my manager, or my mother, or my spouse want or think or need. But that's also the opportunity. If you're looking to re-nurture your voice, I'd offer 2 questions. The first question is, what do you think? As you're listening to this conversation, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Just notice. Because doing that repeatedly actually reminds you that you have thoughts of your own. You're not just solving for the party line or for what other people think, but what do I think? Second question, what do I need? Listen to your body right now. What do you need? I'm like, oh, actually I have a crick in my neck.
Me too.
Okay, you too?
All right, good.
Right? What do I need? Oh, I actually need to breathe, like, deep breath. I need to take a walk around the block after this. We so often aren't paying attention to our own thoughts or needs. So that is the re-nurturing of your sense of self, is simply, what do I think? What do I need? It's internal work that you can do that no one else even needs to know. But after you have increased awareness of what you think and what you need, it's hard then not to want to share or want to solve for them.
Okay, so we're working together. I'm your client, and I've identified that I'm a people pleaser. Everyone's taking advantage of me. I feel resentful that my home life, my work life, and I've started just journaling the answer to your two questions. What do I think and what do I need? Once I've kind of written that down, or maybe it takes a little time for me to figure that out, what do you then do?
Yeah. What I love is that you said it's at home and at work.
Yeah.
Okay, so pick one. By the way,
pick one.
there's a
I was
character.
like, it's hard to be two people, so I'm kind of the same person.
But we all are. And there's a character in my book named Patricia, who's actually named after a C-level executive of a brand name we all know, because especially for women, it is often true that we are the people pleasers, the ones who hold everything together, who do not get credit at home and at work and in our communities. But let's not start with disruption in every aspect of our lives.
Okay.
So pick one. I always encourage people to experiment with the one that feels lower risk. And for some people, work is lower risk than at home because you have longer standing relationships. I guess I'm still related to you by blood at home. Right. But pick one, because trying to do it all at the same time, I would argue, is not setting you up for success.
Okay.
Okay. So let's pick work. And at work, the challenge is, well, what do people even know about you? And often the spotlight effect comes into play where people say, well, now I know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that is a terrible idea. CEO, that is a terrible idea. That is never going to work. You're placing a big bet on it, but I'm thinking it's not going to work. How do I say that or inject that? It feels risky. And my go-to phrase is from where I sit. From where I sit, it doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, the beauty of from where I sit is it allows me to own my vantage point on the world. Right? I'm not telling you what things should look like from where you sit, and you have a different job title, you live in a different city, you have a different office. And the beauty of from where I sit is let me own what I see and what I think. So I'm lending my gifts, skills, and talents to the cause and offering things into the collective data set. It also very naturally begs the question after I've shared, well, what do things look like from where you sit? And then we're in conversation rather than conflict.
Oh, I love that, because if I'm a people pleaser, I'm only looking at from where you sit. And so if I start with, hey, from where I sit, this is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing?
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm engaged. I'm not just doing what you've asked me to do because I don't want to get into it.
I am offering what only I can see. Right? Whether you're in sales or in engineering in Boston or Bangalore, this is where I go of no one has the same vantage point on the world that you do. And you were not hired to just take up space and be a puppet for someone else, especially as you climb. You are actually hired for your perspective, not just what you can produce. Right? So what is my perspective and can I offer it? This is also where our conversation links to perfectionism. So often we don't offer our perspective. We stay silent because we're worried about being wrong.
Ooh, say
We're
more.
worried about not having all the answers. We're really smart, so we can also anticipate their rebuttal. We are aware and self-aware of what we don't know. And because we're not, in our eyes, perfect and all-knowing, then we delegitimize our own perspective.
Oh,
versus
that makes
it's
sense.
just from what you can see from where you sit at this point in time. Maybe tomorrow you'll learn something new. Maybe tomorrow you'll be looking at it from a different perspective. But don't let not being perfect or having all the answers keep you from offering what you do have.
I love that, because we're almost trying to break that cycle of report cards and trophies, right? If I hear you thinking, saying this, like if you're breaking the cycle of, by the way, there's no report cards or trophies post-college or grad school or whatever.
But it feels like there is, Lisa.
There is, right? It does. But what you're saying is like, that's almost self-imposed.
It is.
Now we get to be a part of shaping that report card.
Yes. Okay. What is your own metric for success? And this is when you asked me about my proudest moment. When I shared on LinkedIn, I was doing a TEDx talk. Someone said, "We're so proud of your success, Elaine." And I was like, "Oh, you're saying that being on the TED stage is success." I just see it as a way to share a big idea, not to minimize it, but actually success for me if I'm shaping the report card. Success is being able to have child-free time to go visit my mother.
Oh, I love, and that's on your own terms. I feel like that's where you started at the beginning, as you have a choice. Being able to break the cycle of people pleasing and perfectionist is putting yourself back into the equation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which, if you don't know who you are and what you value, because it's really disorienting. If I'm not the job title, if I'm not the role of mother, wife, friend, who am I? But that's where that quiet, re-nurturing work and awareness comes into play. And I'd argue it, to be really clear, it is disruptive.
Yeah, no, I've had to let go of perfectionism. I'm a perfectionist, right? It's sort of like, and when you're a perfectionist, nothing ever feels good enough. It was what you said earlier, the bar keeps moving.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the things I had a mentor tell me early on, well, he told me two things. He said, one, you have to let people have fingerprints on the answer. Because the more you involve people and the more you let people iterate on an early answer, the more successful you're going to be. Everyone's going to be cheering you on because they all felt like they molded you or molded the answer. The second thing he says, no one wants to take advice from the straight A student. We all want to be, well, no, he said, we all want to take advice from the person who's human and has seen hardship. And you know what I mean? He's like, I don't want to take advice from Hermione Granger.
Hold on, I need a moment of that. As a straight A student, I'm slightly offended, but also see their point of view.
He's like, it's super annoying to be the smartest kid in the room. He's like, you really annoy all of us. He's like, which I think could be a bias too.
Yes.
Yes, and.
Yes, and. Yeah, thank you.
But as you were talking, I thought to myself, well, that takes a deep amount of sense of your own self-worth and value to not have the perfect answer, to let people co-shape it, to admit when you don't know something or it's not fully formed yet. It's hard to let go of the end product, but that takes real, I think, a sense of your own value.
And for the perfectionists in the world, there's so much we cannot control.
I love
There's
that.
so much we cannot control. And so letting go of trying to control it, because I don't have bandwidth for that. But I'd also encourage people to start with low risk environments. So if you do nothing after today, do a low risk experiment. That's why I was asking before, at work or at home, right? Or at the coffee shop with the barista. By the way, don't go to your favorite coffee shop if you still want to go there. Go to like a random one. Right? So you're looking for, strangers are great. Strangers are great to practice on, which is how do I show up and not be just considering you, but also considering me? So the barista gets my order wrong. Do I say something? Do I not? People pleasing is like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Never mind that I paid $7 now, including tax, for this cup of coffee. Are you going to experiment with going back? And we can get in our heads of, I don't want to be that person, because we're annoyed by those people who always are just loud and taking up space. But is it worth it for me to try? Because what we learn from trying these low risk experiments is that actually it's okay. It is okay to advocate for yourself. It is okay to have a difference of opinion. It is okay to say, hey, this isn't what I ordered. Sometimes things are uncomfortable, but comfort is not the metric of right or wrong. Comfort is just a sign of what's familiar. And if staying silent and people pleasing is what's familiar, then doing anything that is not that is going to be uncomfortable.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Comfort is not the metric. I love that.
It's not the metric.
Well, Elaine, I'm so grateful to Melanie for connecting us. I'm so happy you came on and solved this problem. And I want everyone to go get a copy of your book because we all need to unlearn silence. You just shared some really great examples of that I hadn't even seen in my own life. So thank you for coming on In Confidence.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you loved this conversation with Elaine. I learned so much from her. We have to put ourselves back into the equation, ask ourselves what we want. And For each episode this season, I'm giving you one power move, one clear takeaway. So here's your power move this week. Try a low risk experiment. Find a moment where the stakes are super low and speak up. Advocate for yourself. Ask for what you want. Don't worry about other people's comfort or being perfect when you say it. So ask the barista to remake your order if it wasn't exactly what you wanted. Tell the server the food wasn't quite what you were expecting. Or maybe tell your boss, hey, do you mind if I send you a crappy first draft? It's not perfect, but I'd love your eyes on it before it goes any further. Nobody's keeping score, and you're never going to see some of these people again, or you're going to show people that you're trying things differently. What you're doing is building a muscle so that when it matters, you're not starting from zero. Comfort is not the metric. It's just a sign of what's familiar. And I like to say that we practice this all the time. I'm going to call out my chief of staff, Claire, because I adore the way she works. Every time we do something like our International Women's Day campaign, which we launched in March, which I loved, Give, Gain, Gravitas, she showed me early versions of it because she's like, look, I'm not going to spend hours on Canva unless I know exactly what's in your head, what's in my head, what we think is going to work. And we workshopped it from the very beginning. So we iterated every 2 or 3 days. And I kept saying, it's not going to be perfect. Even when we launch it on the website, it's not going to be totally perfect, but we'll tweak it as we go. And it was one of my favorite campaigns we've ever done. Before we close, I've built something different into this season, and it really matters to me. It's a Gravitas shout out because I believe growth deserves to be seen, ownership deserves to be named, and the people doing the work deserve to be celebrated. So at the end of each episode, I'm going to recognize someone who's got lots of gravitas. Today's shout out goes to Elaine, my special guest, and her book, Unlearning Silence, How to Speak Your Mind, Unleash Your Talent, and Live More Fully. This book has helped so many people unpack the impact that silence has on us and how we can grow beyond it. We're going to link the copy of the book in the show notes, so please go get your copy today. I hope you loved this episode of In Confidence. I hope you're leaving this space stronger than when you entered it. I want to hear your stories around people pleasing and perfectionism. These were 2 of the highest rated topics in our survey. And if there's someone in your life going through this, I hope you'll share this episode with them because maybe they need to hear it today. Please like, comment, review, share our podcast with others because it amplifies our work. And until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.